Welcome to AromaticChat, the podcast that introduces you to registered clinical and certified aromatherapists around the world. Every other week, my mom sits down with a different aromatherapist to learn about their aromatic journey and how they use the plants that God has given us in their lives and their businesses. Aromatic Chat is produced by Lemon Balm Coaching, and your host is my amazing mother, Melissa. She is a master transformational coach and a registered aromatherapist.
Hey friends, welcome to Aromatic Chat episode number 80. If you've been around aromatherapy for even just a second, you've probably heard of my next guest, even if you haven't read any of his works. You are in for a real treat today as I chat with none other than Dr. Daniel Penoel. Dr. Penoel has been using aromatic plants for over 60 years and continues to fight for aromatherapy to be recognized by the medical world. He is the visionary behind quantum aromatherapy, and I cannot wait for you to hear from him. So let's get started.
Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Dr. Penoel, for agreeing to come on to the podcast. Anybody who's been around aromatherapy for any length of time has heard your name. Even if they've never read your books or studied under you, they know who you are. So I'm just so thankful that you agreed to come on and share your aromatic journey with us.
Good. So, as you said, you want to know the story of the man behind essential oils, behind aromatherapy.
Yes.
In fact, I don't wish that people call me aromatherapist. Basically, I would say I'm a medical doctor on the one hand, and in my practice, I've used essential oils, but my first function is to be with my patients to understand that for some patients, essential oils are excellent. For other patients, they are not excellent. So my hat is not just Mr. Essential Oils, okay? I want things to be clear. And the most important is to understand that at the age of 14, so I'm sure you have heard of Greta Thunberg, you know, the Swedish girl who is involved in saving the planet.
Mm-hmm.
It rings a bell, yeah. So she started at 16. I started at 14. And I knew I had to do something to save the planet. When I said, you know, I'm 72 now. So I speak of almost 60 years ago. I had already this mission. Not that I think I am the savior of the world, but I have to take my part of the mission. And I decided to become organic agriculture. That was my first purpose, because I think our state of health depends on the earth. It does not depend on drugs, on pharmaceutical companies, not even on essential oils. You can have all the essential oils around you, and you can be very sick, and you can be very healthy with no essential oils. So I said everything has to start from the soil, and I decided to become, we say in French, ingénieur agronome, engineer in agronomy. So I started to study, and then something in me said, if you study agronomy, the field of medicine will be closed forever. But if you decide to start your medical studies, nothing and nobody will prevent you from returning after to the earth, to the soil, and to the source of all health for plants, animals, and mankind. And so I did my medical studies in Paris. I graduated in 1976, and I opened my surgery, my practice in the vicinity of Paris. And 1 month after I started my practice, you know, I had studied, besides official medicine, homeopathy and acupuncture, and I was very interested in plants. Essential oils, I knew them, but I was very puzzled because the quality at the time in the French pharmacies was not what I was looking for. So 1 month after I had opened my practice, my friend, who is a pharmacist in the same town, he said, there is someone very important who gives a lecture. Come with me. So we went to Paris, and then I met Mr. Pierre Franco. I tell you, this story is very strange. The lecture started at 9 o'clock, and when I left Pierre, it was 4 a.m. in the morning, because it was so fascinating. This guy represented for me everything I was looking for. I was aspiring. I was really inspired by everything he said. He explained what is the true quality of essential oils. And at the time, nobody spoke about that, the quality, the botanical accuracy, as you have learned in your American college. All these criteria, they started from Pierre Franco. So you see, even though we parted, because now I'm in quantum, and quantum is not this field, I always give credit. I don't like people who have taken their knowledge and then they do everything to make believe that they have received everything from what they. So we need in aromatherapy to have a kind of ethical behavior. I think this is fundamental. I know it because I've been in this field. And you know, my wife, sometimes she says, aromatherapy has become aromatherapie. In French, pu is stink. So we play with the word because the behavior of some companies and some people is disgusting.
Right.
And the way essential oils are being used as a way to make money, and this is especially the case in your country. I'm sorry, but this is, you know, the problem with these huge companies who pretend to cure everything and anything. This is not the right way. I tried, honestly, to put them on the right track. I brought all the safety rules. I brought a lot of knowledge. I've been in your country I started my first travel that was in San Francisco. I was invited by Kurt Schnobel. I'm sure you know Kurt Schnobel. Mm-hmm. And that was back in 1988. That was the first time I put my foot in America. And then every year I was invited to give lectures. I visited almost all the states. And really I put an input, not to say that the English aromatherapy is bad, but to show them that there are two sides. And the side that we have developed in French-speaking countries, I mean France, the French-speaking part of Switzerland, the French-speaking part of Belgium, and the French-speaking part of Canada, Quebec. So the way we have developed essential oils is mainly science and medicine and pharmacy, and you know that. Mm-hmm. Now, the English system started from Marguerite Maury. Marguerite Maury, she was a French lady. I think initially she was from Austria, but she married a French medical doctor. She migrated to England, to London, and she opened a practice with massage and beauty and what you would call the holistic side of using essential oils. And so that was this kind of conflict. I had to bring the science and the medicine and the pharmacy in your country, as Kurt Schnobel, who was also trained by Pierre Franco, has done. And now America is very, very advanced. You have like the college where you studied is top level, and other institutions are top level. I'm not speaking of the companies who just want to sell, of course. This is different. But I know you have, I think, a university in Purdue. You know Purdue University?
Yes.
Purdue. Yeah, it rings a bell. They do a lot of high level. You have Mr. Papas, who is very well known. So all these people are wonderful. And Gabriel Moget is incredible, and so many incredible people. So I love to be in America, and I did my part to bring what I had to bring. But I was still a bit finding a holistic system a bit, how you say in English, weird, is it correct? Weird, okay. It's strange for me. And so at one point, destiny put me in a situation where I had to understand the limit of my scientific approach. There was a stop to science and open my mind and my heart and then my practice to the holistic approach. So this story occurred. I tell you the detail of the story, which bring us to the birth of quantum aromatherapy. At the time, it was in June of the year 2004, I gave a lecture in south of France, and a guy, I'm sure you know him, is Mark Webb from Australia.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
He came to be trained, that was his dream, being trained by Dr. Penoel in France, and he brought with him a carton box with many vials of new essential oils from Australia. I knew nothing, but I like to say this in English, my nose knows. I opened all the vials, and among those 20 new essential oils, two of them, all of them were interesting, but two of them, immediately you call this gestalt. You have a perception, and the intuition in my mind said, those two oils, they will be known all over the planet. And that was in June, okay. Then comes November, summertime, we have no problem, everything is sunny, and you go to the lake. And in November, then the cold comes. So I had this problem that my wife, Rosemary, she had a kind of bronchitis, but as if everything was blocked in her lungs. And so I used my oils as usual. I said, oh, after 2 or 3 days, it will be just a bad memory. But nothing worked. She had a kind of dry cough, and it was totally blocked. And she was in a state of despair. And then she said to me, if it goes on like that, I'm going to turn to cortisone. That was a shock. And then the idea comes to my mind. Now, there was an oil from Australia. And instead of using, I use large quantities. In medical practice, it's not a few drops to give a massage. We use generally neat and large amounts. But I call this emergency. See? So you have normal user essential oils, but emergency is different.
Right.
If you ask a policeman or an ambulance man or a fireman to just drive in the same way when there is an emergency, it's stupid. Okay,
right.
So my work is to be facing emergency. You forget the normal rules, normal safety, etc. Then you have to face a danger. You act like a warrior. And instead of using certain quantity, I was inspired to use just a trace and to apply the trace on her chakra. And then the quantum miracle happens. Immediately she felt that something was taking place, and she had a kind of relief, and the whole healing system took place. This oil, the first oil that was used, now the name exists as Fragonia. At the time, of course, it did not exist.
Right.
The botanical name now is Taxandria fragrans, and the name they used before was agonist fragrance. Botanists, you know that, they change from time to time. But
yes.
Now we say Fragonia, which is a specific chemotype, because in agonist or Taxandria, there are different chemotypes. This chemotype is unique. And being convinced that there was something to discover, I decided to visit the farmer and his wife in Western Australia. So in December, I had booked my travel to go to Perth, capital of Western Australia. And I said, if I go there and just say my wife, she was healed with a trace, I mean, it's not science. They will do nothing with that. And I said, I'm sure that behind this kind of quantum healing, there must be an explanation, scientific explanation, and it has to be in the molecular composition. So we are lucky because we work with a laboratory in south of France who is doing a full analysis. It means sometimes they give you 10 components. We are lucky because we have also minor components. It's like a symphony, you see. In the symphony, you have a little sound here and there. So this is what you call the whole of the work. So that was in December, almost 6 weeks before taking the plane for Perth. And I worked on this Sunday afternoon with all the molecular components, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. And I said, something. And then suddenly I got it. Because listen to me, and I want your people to listen very carefully. If I compare just the molecules with what I had used, the eucalyptus and the rosemary and the pine, etc., we have the same molecules. So it is not a question of this or that molecule. It is a question of the whole structure. And then I said, instead of looking at individual molecules, you have to understand that the plant, the genius of the plant, works by molecular families, not by isolated. The genius of the Fragonia with the triangle and with the fractal of the divine proportion, that was the source of the healing of rosemary. What was the healing is not this or that molecule. It is like a penetration, or I would say a resonance between a condition, which was a very acute condition. I mean, if you are in a good state, you will say, yeah, Fragonia is nice, but you feel nothing because you are not in a disease. The disease enables us to prove or to disprove the validity and the worth of the essential oil, not when you are well.
Right.
You can get it better, but then you understand. If you have a wound here on your hand, if I touch your hand, you will learn, you know. And then if I bring on this wound a balm and I put it, this is good. But if you have no wound, whatever I do, you don't care. So disease helps us to understand the real power. This is why when you work, like I've done in medical situations with acute cases, of course, I worked with many chronic, but in acute cases, you can see these results as though it was the divine energy that is taken, porté par la plante, is brought by the plant and the essence of the plant into the suffering person, and you have the result. Now, I had the key, and I was able to visit my friends in Western Australia, John and Beta Day, and I explained to them with all my conviction that they had to get involved into the production of this essential oil. If a farmer produces a new essential oil and you have no information, it will be bankrupt. Oppositely, if you speak of the essential oil and it is not produced, people doesn't exist. So it was a delicate balance between growing the plant, distilling it, and step by step getting more essential oils and bringing the message to the world. I was invited in Colorado, and I gave a lecture with many students, and John and Petade, they came for this event. And really, that was the launching. And then I taught about Fragonia and Kunzea ambigua, that was the other oil. It's like the yin and the yang, you know, it's a Tao, the quantum aromatherapy. So all the continents that we visited, we gave the testimony. And now I think these oils, of course, they are not produced like tea tree, but you don't have to use Fragonia as you would use tea tree because it works from the vibration. So even with a minute amount, you understand this, you have powerful results as long as there is a resonance. And resonance is what takes place in quantum physics. The basis of quantum physics is when a photon touches an electron, and then the electron jumps from one orbit to the upper orbit. Okay? And this is instantaneous. You know? It's really the quantum principle is really a change from one state to the other state with no intermediate. And that was exactly what happened with rosemary, with the resonance in her suffering condition, with the healing power of Fragonia and then Kunzea ambigua from Tasmania. So at the time, in 2005, I was in Western Australia, and then I flew to Tasmania to meet the guy who produced the Kunzea ambigua that Mark Webb had brought to me. And I launched the two essential oils together. The Kunzea ambigua was already produced and known. Fragonia had to be prudent, but along the way, and now farmers in Australia, it's not just one producer, other farmers now have started to grow and to distill it. So it is really an essential oil that is incredible in its power. Just be careful because it is very yin. Also, the Kunza ambigua, not because it is yin, but because it has sesquiterpenes. Also, you don't use it when there is estrogen-dependent breast cancer. But apart from that, these oils are incredible for, and they are very complementary. It's very important. People sometimes they are very, I don't say jealous, we say biased, And one guy from Queensland, he said, "Wow, I see Kunzea, there is 45% of alpha-pinene." First, alpha-pinene, I'm sure you know it. It is metabolized by our system, and then it becomes verbenol, which is a monoterpenol that is very rare. So it means that our liver behaves like an aromatic plant and brings an added value to this mundane molecule of alpha-pinene.
Right.
And it brings to us from a monoterpene, which is very common, a high value monoterpenol, verbenol, not verbenol. So you cannot say that it is a mundane. But then you have in Kunzea many sesquiterpenes and sesquiterpenols. And the most beautiful adventure I had with Kunzea is also something I want to share with your viewers. The girl, her name is Cynthia, and Cynthia, she works in a health food shop in my town, and we saw her. She had difficulties to walk, and I don't want to ask questions because I don't want to say I'm a doctor. But Rosemary, what's wrong? What's the problem? She said, I suffer from my knees. For what reason? Then she explained that she had the Crohn's disease, but she had the systemic Crohn's disease, meaning that not only the immune system was attacking her bowel, but also attacking her skin with really holes in her skin and her joint. The full worst picture of the Crohn's disease. And so she said to Cynthia, speak with my husband. So I said to Cynthia, come and see me, we'll speak together. And then I had the intuition that Kunzea ambigua would be the essential oil. When you do a work as a researcher, you have to do one thing. You don't have to use many essential oils or to use essential oils and massage and psychotherapy and this and that, because if you have a result, you don't know what in the factor. It's not because we are doing alternative or complementary medicine that we lose our scientific mind. No, we have this scientific mind. You change one thing, you don't touch. I mean, I know everything about nutrition, but if I had started to tell her to stop cheese and milk and gluten, etc., first, she wouldn't follow my advice because she was not ready. And then, if a result, is it the diet or is it the essential oil?
Right.
I just gave her 6 drops of Kunzea ambigua essential oil to put in a capsule with carrier oil and swallowed for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. Cynthia, she was very involved in sports, and her dream was one day to run the Paris Marathon. And she was running a lot, but of course, with the disease, it was impossible. After 1 week of taking 3 times a day, 6 drops of Kunzea ambigua, she was able to run, listen to me, 5 kilometers. After 2 weeks, she jogged 10 kilometers. And after 1 month, she ran 20 kilometers. It had gave her so much energy that she was totally changed. Not that the Kunzea ambigua was supposed to heal her, not at all, because I tell you the truth. The disease, the Crohn's disease, had lasted for so long that there was what you call a fistula, which means a communication hole between the colon and the vagina, which means that the stools were passing through the vagina. So the only thing she had to do is to have enough strength, morally and physically, to decide to go for the surgical operation. But the fact that the Kunzea ambigua was able to give her not only the physical strength, but the moral strength and the decision was really this young energy that was penetrating her and making another miracle. She underwent the surgery, and she had all the strength to recover. The Crohn is a systemic disease. It's an autoimmune disease. So they just cut the part that is out of work, but the disease is still there. And then, she was working in a health food shop, but she was totally blocked. I mean, she had access to all the books about nutrition. No, if you are not ready in your head, you know it because you're a coach and you know it works. If you're not ready, it doesn't work. And sometimes you speak to your patients and they're like teenagers, you say something, when they go out, they do the opposite. But she took the decision. She went to a nutritionist. And the nutritionist said what I would have told her, the gluten and the dairy. These are, if you can take gluten and dairy with no problem, that's okay. But for her, in her condition, they were foods to eliminate totally from her diet. And honestly, she said, you see, Dr. Penoel, when I left the nutritionist, there was the bakery and pastry just, and I went, but that was the last time. And then she said, no, I stopped. And from that moment, the true healing was able to start. Not that the condition will be changed. Right. I mean, now she's perfectly well, but if she's invited and she eats gluten or dairy products, because the friend said there is no, but sometimes you have a choice, immediately she can feel it. So the disease is there, but it is under control, and she has strength to change. And the most beautiful part of the story, believe me, or don't believe me, what you want. I was invited in November, December of the same year to tour Australia, Perth, Melbourne, and Sydney. When I was in Melbourne, the guy who produces Kunzia was invited to come from Tasmania to be there in the room. And on the morning, I had 2 days of lecture, conference. I was the only speaker, in fact. So I jogged in the streets of Melbourne. December is summertime for Australia. Okay, so it was nice. And then on the tree, I see something which is shining, and I approach the tree. And there was a little medal, so that medal that you put on the necklace, and the name written on the medal was Cynthia. Okay, so if you think there is not something above us, I think we are not all the same wavelength, but I know you know that.
Well, and you said something that you said when you started talking about Cynthia, and you said, I intuitively knew that Kunzia was the way to go. And that's because there is something greater, and you were plugged in. You allowed that download to happen, that information to flow through you. And that's part of the whole idea behind quantum. Correct?
Exactly. Synchronicity. Yes. Generally, because I work with many new essential oils, and generally, destiny, fate, whatever you call it, synchronicity, they bring to me a patient that will exactly have the condition that will prove and put the light on the power of this or that essential. It could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be spiritual, whatever. You have seen this in practice, I think the same.
I have. I call that providence. It's providential. Yeah. It's providential. I can't plan that. I can't make that happen. That's not in my power to do. Absolutely. Oh. Yeah.
You're connected.
Yeah, beautiful. Oh my gosh, that amazing stories, amazing history. I'm curious to know, like, what are you working on right now that's got you really excited? That's all in, that's history, but what are you working on right now?
So from the medical practice, I'm 72, I'm retired, but I still, I'm like a health coach, you see. People by internet, by like we are doing now, I can help them. So I still do my work with patients, but not in a practice, okay? And the medical system in France is terrible now. If you don't work with the drugs, in America, it's much more open. You have integrative medicine, but in France, it's very strange, but the medical system is, Cartesian. Yeah? want to discard homeopathy. They want to put all these things. So what we were lucky before, during 20 years, when I prescribed essential oils, patients went to the pharmacies and everything was refunded by the social security system. So we could heal and help many patients, even the poor ones, because they had nothing to pay. And then they decided to stop. But for many years, the system was very good because it was considered as part of the freedom of a doctor. If you are a doctor and you prescribe a plant, an essential oil, or whatever, then it was refunded. And at the time, the book that we had written with Pierre Fancôme, L'Aromathérapie exactement, book which is well known, on the same day when the book was put on the market, the parliament decided to stop to refund plant and essential oils. Again, synchronicity. So all the doctors who are just doing this like an opportunity, they went back to cortisone and antibiotics. And because I'm not like that, I said to my wife, we are going to create our own company, laboratory, so that people will have good essential oils for good prices. And we did it. So it's rare to have a doctor, because for me, it was an opportunity to get involved into the real matter, to work with the producers, distillers, and not just writing a prescription. So that was part of the adventure. So now I still have patients at distance, and I do a lot of research on new essential oils. I give teachings. We have come back from Seoul in South Korea with my wife. We are invited. And my first training, I come on stage with my special vest with 40 essential oils, and I teach the way of the aromatic warrior. Why do I do that? Because they are all trained in the English system, and I want them to discover the other part. So during 3 days, intensively, I have a full program, and then warriors, because when you have a virus, when you are attacked, when you have difficult conditions, emergencies, it's not the time to lie on a couch and receive a fragrant massage. A lady who urinates pus and blood 30 times per day with cystitis, you don't ask her, oh, I'm going to give you a nice fragrant massage. No, you have to kill the bacteria. And then, of course, she will be connected with a person who will go behind the symptom and see what triggered the situation. So the quantum system is that, yes, you have one part, which is the medical part. You have to know it. And then you have subtle part. Each of them is important. And my mission is to make this message of quantum aromatherapy that respects the medical side when it pertains to the condition, and to make the subtle side also when it pertains to the condition to be used, implemented in the right way. On the one hand, we use heavy doses and mouth or injection like suppositories, whatever, and neat essential oils. On the other hand, we use minute amounts. We use a lot the olfaction system. I've made a lot of discoveries in the subtle side that would amaze you and put you on, let's say, sometimes seventh heaven or the moon, jump to the moon. Because I am really guided and inspired, as you are, as many others, but what they send to me sometimes goes beyond, because with my rational mind, the upper forces want to bring me to opening my eyes and my mind to more and more subtle aspects of the power of essential. So research, teaching, writing, the company. You see, I'm retired, but I've never been so busy that now. And you see, my free interest is the medical field with science, the energy field, as you are also studying, and then the more psychological, spiritual aspect. And essential oils, they can work on the free aspect. Are you interested in the Chinese traditional medicine?
Yes.
Yeah. You know, they call this in Chinese traditional medicine the three treasures, Sanbao. Sanbao, you have the matter aspect. Here you have, they call this the Jing, also the substance, matter. Here they call this the Qi, which is the energy, and then the Shen, which is the spirit. And essential oils, they can work on each of the three treasures, but the way you use them for the Jing or for the Qi or for the Shen is totally different.
Right.
And so in quantum aromatherapy, the next step, once you have been trained in the way of the aromatic warrior, which has to be the basis for everyone, then we enter into studying the principle of quantum aromatherapy and the techniques and the practice of quantum aromatherapy with medical aspects and energy aspects and subtle aspects. And my teaching opens the mind. I mean, the people in Korea said, Dr. Penoel is a genius. I don't say it. See, I tell you just a little story. After the seminar, the 3-day seminar, I met a guy in Seoul. He has created an integrative medicine hospital, 200 kilometers from Seoul. So we met him and then we visited the hospital. I mean, a real hospital, integrative medicine. Wow, cost a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met the guy who created the hospital. He couldn't come. But I met a guy, Korean guy, and he presents himself. He says, I'm a PhD, believe me, PhD from high university in America. I don't remember where, but PhD in molecular immunology. Okay, follow me. Molecular immunology. Wow. Immunology is one of my favorite fields. And essential oils have a lot to do with innate immune system and with adaptive immune system.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be taught to your students. Generally, when you speak of immunology, people are lost. And so the guy, he was facing me, and I said to him, by the way, what is the basis of the immune system? What would you answer to the question? What is the basic function of the immune system? What would you answer, you, Melissa?
Of the immune system is to protect and heal.
So this is what he said. And I said, no. The first, everyone, so now I give you the answer. That will, I'm not going to tease your people. I want them to understand that the way I teach, you will never forget. If I put a piece of my skin and I want to graft it on your skin, what are you going to do? To reject. Okay? So the first function of your immune system is to say, I am me. I am not anyone else. So it is your identity. When you understand that, then makes a big difference. This is my way of teaching. And you see me on stage. This is just a joke between us. But on stage, I'm like fire. People must be ready.
There's a good amount of fire here today.
The guy in Seoul, he could not answer rightly because he said, like you, protection. I said, no. First, it is your identity. We call it HLA system, human leukocytic antigen or histocompatibility. And this is really what it is because you have to be you. And once you are you, you have to face dangers and recognize the true danger and which is not dangerous. A little piece of pollen is not a danger. And then you have to respect your own cell, not to attack yourself, if not it's autoimmune disease. And you have to recognize cells who are crazy, which means stopping cancerous cells. That is immunity.
So I feel like we could continue talking for hours about this subject because I was getting ready to say something and I'm thinking, no, I don't need to keep this going because we're running out of time. But I love the way that you're approaching aromatherapy, not just aromatherapy, but the body as well, and the mind and the spirit. After speaking with your daughter this morning, I can see where she gets her passion and fire from. I'm sure it also comes from your wife, but I haven't spoken with her yet. So I can definitely see that she gets not just passion and fire, but this curiosity. She has this innate curiosity about her that I just found so intriguing. And I'm finding that same thing with you. Well, how can people find what you're doing? How can people find out about quantum aromatherapy?
I think let's speak honestly. When time is ready, if people are ready, then I think that the message you have to bring has to be like a revolution. It's a revolution first in the way we think, in the way we feel, in the way we speak, in the way we read, in the way we communicate, in the way we act, and in the way we transform this planet. We know the planet is dying. So the only hope is that instead of being in anger or fear, we have to act. And essential oils represent the spearhead of this worldwide revolution. I've brought my part for so many years, and I think the universe now wants me to be propulsed to a different level. It's like a quantum leap. And maybe, Melissa, you are the link.
I would be honored to be the link. So I am going to trust Providence. And when the timing is right, it is going to happen. Dr. Penoel, thank you so much for taking your evening and sharing it with me and the listeners of the podcast. Just beautiful, beautiful to speak with you today.
Okay, I can feel your energy. And I know that the connection came from a girl from Hungary who lives in Crete. And she said, you have to take part to the events that took place before. And now I'm with you. So it's like a destiny. And this girl from Hungary, she had contacted Magali, but I didn't know her. And when I was in Israel, because I often go to Israel, a dream, not a dream, the vision came to me, and I was in Hungary. And the day after, the connection with this girl was there, and she has played this kind of being the connective link between us. So you see, everything is already written, and then you have to accomplish.
Yes, everything's already written. Everything is connected. Quantum energy all around us all the time. We just have to tap in.
I feel you have a beautiful energy. I love your country because America has a unique energy. Some aspects in America, of course, but there are, in the balance, you have so many beautiful things.
Thank you again, Dr. Penoel. I have really enjoyed speaking with you. I know that the listeners are going to just love hearing everything that you had to share today. Thank you so much. I felt such an amazing kinship with Dr. Penoel. I find it just really cool how you can connect with someone even if you've never met them before. Have you ever been in a crowded room and you've known that someone has entered even though you can't see them? Maybe your back is turned. Maybe there are so many people it's just not possible to see them. This connection with other people is possible because of the quantum realm. And when we talk about quantum, what we're really talking about is energy. The entire universe is made up of energy. We learned this back in high school. Energy is the basic material that creates everything. Plants, essential oils, your phone, your computer, your body, everything. Some energy is visible, some energy is invisible. Invisible energy are things like the wind, your thoughts, and your emotions. You can't see them, but you definitely know that they are there and you can see their effects. Talking with Dr. Penoel about quantum aromatherapy today was such a gift. And I'm so glad that you joined me for this amazing episode. Every time you listen, share, and review the podcast, you're supporting the mission of Aromatic Chat to connect people with the aromatherapist that meets their wellness needs. Aromatic Chat is produced by me, Melissa at Lemon Balm Coaching, and I'm your host, Master Transformational Coach and Registered Aromatherapist. My passion is working with people who are emotionally numb, the people who are completely disconnected from who they were designed to be. I love to walk beside you as you reconnect your mind, body, and spirit so that you can heal. You can connect with me on the web at lemonbalmcoaching.com and Instagram at lemonbalmcoaching. I will see you next time with our next episode. Until then, peace, love, and aromatics.